So, how do you get an entire nation on board with something truly catastrophic? Well, it often boils down to a single, really powerful argument. Today, we're going to take apart the rhetorical blueprint of a deeply consequential speech from 1939. Now, our goal here isn't to relive its horror, but to really understand its dangerous mechanics. We're going to analyze, step by step, how this narrative was constructed to justify the unthinkable. To really get this, we're going to break the speech down into 5 distinct stages. It starts with an accusation of hypocrisy and builds all the way up to a final chilling prophecy. As you'll see, this 5-part structure is the absolute key to its persuasive power. All right, so first up, the speech doesn't just come out swinging at its main target. Nope, it starts with a really clever rhetorical move. It accuses the world's democracies of hypocrisy. The goal here is to immediately frame the international community as the real villains. This opening line is all about creating an instant us versus them feeling. See how the speaker positions his own nation not as an aggressor, but as someone just pointing out how insincere the rest of the world is? It's a really effective way to deflect any criticism before the main argument even gets started. Then, he builds up this kind of straw man argument. He presents these supposed excuses from other countries, only to immediately shoot them down with his own accusations. And the language is so carefully chosen, right? His nation is portrayed as crowded and generous, while the Jewish people are depicted as parasites who stole their wealth. This paints a crystal clear picture of German victimhood, a nation suffering under a global double standard. So after setting up the world as a bunch of hypocrites, the speech pivots. Now it starts building this really detailed, really emotional case for Germany as the true victim of the post-war era. And it does this with a barrage of numbers. First, he hits them with a deeply emotional number. The speaker claims over 800,000 children died from hunger after the war, and he directly links this tragedy to what other nations did. Next up, an economic gut punch, the confiscation of nearly 1 million milking cows as part of the peace treaty. This is framed as a cruel tactic specifically designed to starve the nation. And then you have the human cost. The claim that over 1.5 million Germans were kicked out of their homes with literally nothing but the clothes on their backs. So you see, these aren't just random numbers. They're all woven together into this powerful story of national humiliation. Every single point is designed to stir up feelings of injustice, loss, and deep resentment. And this foundation of grievance is absolutely crucial for what's about to come next. Okay, so this carefully built narrative of victimhood is now used to justify a really radical and horrifying policy. The argument shifts from, look what was done to us, to, here's what we have to do now. And here's where things get explicit. The speech drops all subtext and just comes out and defines an entire group of people using this dehumanizing biological metaphor. By calling them parasites, the argument presents their very presence not as a matter of citizenship, but as a kind of biological crisis that needs to be solved. And then this is followed by a layer of really biting sarcasm. The speaker basically mocks the world's sympathy, saying, hey, if these people are so valuable, why don't you take them? This little rhetorical trick does 2 things at once. It dismisses any international criticism as fake, and it frames the act of expulsion as some kind of generous gift that the world is just too foolish to accept. The argument now makes another turn. It moves from justifying removal to presenting this grand vision for a new national identity, an identity that's defined specifically by who is left out. This quote, it's a perfect example of that ethno-nationalist idea. On the surface, this simple rhythmic chant sounds kind of reasonable, right? A country should belong to its people. But in the context of this speech, the definition of the people has been very, very carefully narrowed to exclude the so-called parasite. The speech then lays out what looks like a logical, step-by-step plan for national renewal. It's presented almost like a social justice program, getting rid of a strange elite and listing up the true children of the nation. This makes a radical, exclusionary agenda sound like a rational and even noble project. So, all of these stages, the hypocrisy, the grievances, the dehumanization, and this new national vision, they've all been building towards this one climax. And here, the speaker takes on his final and most dangerous role. He literally claims to be a prophet. He reminds his audience, hey, remember all those predictions I made that you laughed at? Well, they came true. This is a classic move to demand credibility for what he's about to say next. He's basically saying, you should have listened to me then, and you absolutely must listen to me now. With his authority as a prophet now supposedly established, he poses one last, terrifying question. This sets the stage for the speech's infamous conclusion. And there it is, the final prophecy, the culmination of this entire argument. He's claiming that a future war will result in genocide. But notice how it's presented. Not as a plan, not even as a threat, but as an inevitable prophetic outcome. It's the ultimate conclusion to the whole narrative of grievance and justification that he spent the entire speech building. You know, when you deconstruct this speech, you see a chillingly effective formula. It shows how a story of victimhood can be weaponized, how dehumanizing language can pave the way for brutality, and how the idea of prophecy can be used to announce a threat. Understanding the structure isn't just a history lesson, it's a critical tool for recognizing dangerous rhetoric, whenever and wherever it appears.